So I've been podcasting every single week since 2019.
Wow.
I haven't missed a week.
What?
Yeah.
So you are super consistent.
I'm just consistent with it, and I'm not super concerned about like where it is in growth.
Yeah.
I mean, we've definitely grown year over year, month over month, we're growing. But for me, I just know as a sort of marketing head entrepreneur in my life that like, it's just another touch point for people, right? Like you and I are going to meet.
Yeah.
Someone's going to hear this podcast that's like waiting to push click.
Yeah.
But I'm going to get to know you. We're going to network. We're going to develop a relationship.
Totally.
You're going to be put in front of my audience. I'm going to be put in front of your audience. And like, those are the quantifiable things that just, that the non-quantifiable sort of marketing things that I believe a lot of smart people like discount.
Yeah. No, 100%. Because we would never go, hey, do you want to meet up and go talk for an hour?
Right.
Like deep, like from 0 to 60 and then build that relationship. It's so smart. Plus the content. I know. I get it.
I mean, the content component is also awesome. And it's some of our most engaging content for the brand. Like I've had some of the investors of Creatures be like, what's this podcast thing? And I'm like, by the way, like it's some of the most engaging content.
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, but you're selling oatmeal. And I'm like, I'm not selling oatmeal.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's not what it's like. I didn't like start Creatures of Habit saying, hey, like I want to be an oatmeal salesman.
Yeah.
I started Creatures of Habit because I'm like, hey, like the mission of this business is to help people be better.
Yeah.
Right. And if I can give you a little tool, like it's so hard to sell a habit. Like, you can't sell going to the gym. You can't sell going to bed early. You can't sell waking up early. You can't sell washing your face and taking care of your skin. Like, but you can like sell something like this, which is like, hey, this is super easy to just like, this is how you should start your day nutritionally.
Yeah. It's so smart that you have a product, but you have thought this through to then build the community through the pod. Because a lot of people that will come to me though that have products, they're like, I don't get any interaction or it's really hard. I'm like, yeah, you're selling like a bottle of cream. You have to build the community. So I feel like you're next level thinking, like truly by building out the community, then that it's like, I want the product just because I like you. You know what I mean?
Thank you. I appreciate you saying that. I think really where that has like honestly come from is hospitality chops. I feel like a restaurant doesn't succeed without community.
Right.
Because like I could sell this globally if I wanted to with the click of a button. Restaurant is a hyper local. It rests on the laurels of the locals.
Yeah.
And if they're not coming because there's no community environment there, you're fucked.
Yeah.
It's over. So for me, when I was opening restaurants similar to this thing, I was like, I opened up a concept called the meatball shop. Like I really didn't give a shit about meatballs, but I wanted to create a business that people would like stop scrolling for and then want to be a part of. So like we got you in the restaurant. The food is awesome and fun, but like it was all about the community, the hospitality. And that is really, I think, what set the tone for like every other business sort of like strategy in my mind is like, hey, I need community. Community is going to carry the ship when the tides are fucking low.
Yeah. Gosh, that's exactly how I build my brand. It's all about people and community. And that is like the thing that I preach all the time where people are so me-centric, and I get it because like you are the brand, I am the brand, but it's like, no, it has to be for people. And if you have that mindset of this is for people, we're going to build a community, it will carry you way far, like so much farther than yourself.
Totally. And the hard part of that is like, it's really hard to put that on a P&L, right?
Yeah.
Like it's really hard to say, oh yeah, here's the ROI on our community right now. Like both business partners in my two businesses that I founded and exited were really smart guys, are really smart guys, very, very smart guys. Yeah. I'm not a very smart guy. Like I'm an emotionally intelligent guy.
Yeah. Well, you know where your strengths lie.
100%.
Yeah.
And like you task me with like, hey Mike, like we really need you to build out the projections and the forecast for the next quarter. I'm going to be like, Jonathan, hey, do me a favor, man. We need to figure this out.
Same.
But, yeah, I'm just not that person. But the smart guys are like, they believe that if it doesn't work on paper, through a spreadsheet of sorts or some, piece of technology platform that is going to like use data to extrapolate some fancy number. It doesn't work. And my thought process has always been like, hey, we are in the restaurant business, or now I'm in the wellness CPG business. But I use the restaurant as an example. I'm like, hey, if you ever thought for a second that a guest walking through the front door of the restaurant walked in and said, oh my God, I wonder what the P&L looks like in this place. Never. Never happened, never.
Right.
Like never.
Right.
And I'm like, and I would say to Jay and Dan, because they would kind of like kick off manager meetings with the P&L, I'd be like, hey, like you're spending 70% of this meeting talking about like the numbers, which I understand are obviously important.
Right.
But like the way the business grows is from people walking in feeling one way and walking out feeling much better. That's it. The way the way the business grows in this brand is like the exposure that people get to it, they're exposed to it, they use it in their life, and then whether it's just the product or the product in the community, they feel more a part of something than they did before they were introduced to it.
Yeah.
And so I really do think that like what you said, to your point, like the community is like, if not the most important piece, or the culture within the business is not, if not the most important piece, like right there.
Oh, I always say people eat culture for breakfast. Like culture is everything, especially with millennials or even younger now. It's like they want to know like, who am I buying from? Who's the founder? What's the mission? Or even if they don't care about that, if they're not that kind of brained, they want to like know the feeling. What's the feeling? What kind of feeling am I getting from this? Right. So it does.
So it's interesting that you said like the millennials or even the Gen Xers or Gen Zs, whatever they're called. Do you think that there is a real paradigm shift there, or do you think it's because people are just hyper connected now and we're hearing more about it? Or do you think people always wanted to feel the fabric of a brand?
I think it's a little bit of both. Like we're hyper connected, but I do think millennials they're driven by contribution, believe it or not. Like they want it to matter. It's more about who's doing it. What's the mission? Whether it's right or wrong, I think it's a new way of thinking because of digital. There's so much access, even if it's false information, that's what they're driven by.
So if you had to, for the entrepreneurs listening or the aspiring entrepreneurs listening, if you had to sort of paint a picture of like 3 to 5 things that you think are almost a prerequisite today for success, or forgetting about like what we think of as success, but just like being able to make an impact, what do you think those things are?
You have to have values. And then you have to not only have values, but you got to show the values like within the company. It's why you see different shops now, like that you walk in and there's like the values up there. I think that definitely matters. I think employees, like how they treat the culture, company culture, all that matters. With that is like, what's the benefits, blah, 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 all that. I think product integrity matters so much now with ingredients. I'm sure you've learned so much about that. Yeah. The feeling, like the what it looks like. So the brand identity, the colors, all that, the marketing. I'm sure you could teach a thing or two about marketing for sure.
I mean, I think I agree with all the things that you just said. I feel like what I'm learning about it is that I am a marketer, though I didn't go to school for that. But I really do think that great marketers are risk takers and gut thinkers, because there are the data-driven marketers for sure, right? That are going to tell you, okay, so, we pulled up all this information and, 40% of your customers are this and 30% of your customers are making these decisions. And so we should really just sort of target these people in these different cohorts through this thing. And I'm just kind of like, in my opinion, in any business, but like specifically in a digital business, now is where sort of my number one focus is. You can't listen to all the noise.
You can't.
You can't.
No.
Because maybe you only hear in the media, you only hear about the unicorns.
Yeah.
You know, like
For sure.
that's all you hear about.
Yeah.
You don't hear about the 97% of business that's doing under $1 million in revenue and isn't going to make it.
Right.
Right. So like you only hear about the heavy hitters. And I do think that though maybe some of those people, they're probably not even talking about their like, you know, their plans or their strategies really. Everybody assumes that if you're a digital brand and you're not in retail, you're spending all your money on paid media, you know? And I think it's just not true. Like paid media is you could see very clearly how much you invest and what that return looks like.
Yeah.
It's clear as day.
Yeah.
That's why that's like a safe, smart guy bet.
Yeah.
Right? You're like, okay, well, we know that like we're going to spend $100,000 here and we're going to do 200,000 plus.
Yeah. I came from the world of like affiliate marketing, word of mouth marketing, all that, like people telling people and not paying a dime for like building a huge health and wellness company. It was all through people and word of mouth and all that. So then when I switched businesses and started, you know, mentoring other people, I'm like, oh, wow, I've never even paid for an ad. Like everything I've done has been organic word of mouth marketing.
And that's the best.
It's the best.
And so if that was a strategy, how would you tell people? If that was like, because we all know that word of mouth marketing, nothing beats word of mouth marketing. So like, what would be a strategy to potentially tell people to implement for building a word of mouth sort of component of their
Make sure that there's an affiliate model in what you're selling. You know, it's like, and make sure people know about it. Like if I love this and eat this every day and I'm posting it on my Instagram, am I going to get like a tiny percentage? You know, I think the affiliate model is huge. And, you know, then creating that community of like the people that are performing the best. So that's what I did, is like all the best people that are selling the most, give them rewards, bring them on trips, like, you know, and then you grow so fast.
An entrepreneur straight out of New York City, Michael Chernow. What's cracking?
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Creatures of Habit Podcast. I'm sitting here with Emily Ford. We just dove into this conversation. We just started going and the cameras were rolling and I was just like, fuck it, we're going for it. But I wanted to take a little break and just introduce Emily, who is an incredible entrepreneur. She built a massive business, like by the time she was 25 years old. She also has an incredible podcast called The Fortitude Show. She has a mentorship company that is a mentorship business that's killing it right now called Fortitude. She speaks on stages all over the world. She's a sought after keynote speaker. She's done so much. And we're meeting for the first time now. I'm super, super excited to dive in with her and talk about all things habits, rituals, and routines, but also about entrepreneurship, because I think a vast majority of you all listening to this podcast are entrepreneurs or are aspiring entrepreneurs. And even if you're not, it's good food for thought on top of the other sort of habit stuff that we'll cover. So I just wanted to pop in and introduce Emily. All right, back to Em.
Yo, thank you.
So I want to talk to you about a morning routine, because we do like to talk about habits, rituals, and routines.
I love it.
And I want to hear about your morning routine.
I love that you're asking me this, because if I do not start out my morning well, it is not good. Like I just waste time, waste energy, all the above. So my morning routine, well, first of all, I started taping my mouth shut when I sleep. So I don't know. I feel cool that I can actually do it. At first I was claustrophobic, but now I'm doing good. But my morning routine, get up, make the bed. I actually take a bucket of ice and water and I dip my whole face in I try to get like 10 Mississippi and just like wake myself up, deep puff. And then put my fitness clothes on right away. And then I take my dog out and like get that morning sunlight. And then typically I put my earbuds in and then I listen to worship music while I'm walking. So it's like I'm praising God. I'm getting in that state of gratitude, taking the dog out, getting the sun, just getting it all in. Then I come in, have some coffee, and then hit a workout. Typically, like I converted like my office workout little area, so it's just easy. I can get it all done. Then after that, I glance at my schedule for the day, and then sometimes I'll do some writing. So I'm working on a book now, so I'll do some brain dumping, like just using that quiet time before I get on digital, you know. So that's typically what I do. It's not overcomplicated at all, but it really works well. And then I theme my days. So, you know, some days I'll go straight into more deep work, but other days it'll be like interview, or it just depends.
Do you have your day broken up outside of your morning routine, which I love, by the way? I think, you know, like there's been a few people that have come onto the show that have been like, you know, I really just don't have a morning routine. And I'm like, okay, great. But, you know, 9 out of 10 people that have been on the show have these like I just knew that I was going to ask you what your morning routine was, and you were going to be like, bah, 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 bah. You know, because I think it's so important. I think it's so important. And the way I kind of describe it is to give people a visual. I'm like, okay, if you were building a structure, like a physical structure, like a building, a house, whatever, if you didn't pour a foundation for it, like a solid concrete rock foundation, every time it rained, that, you know, if you built it on dirt, it would just like sink. Right. And over time, it is going to collapse.
100%.
However, if you pour that foundation every day with a routine that makes you feel good, that makes you feel accomplished, that makes you feel like you're winning before you like get out there and go like do your best to bring everything you got. Like if you didn't do that, the chances of like happiness, in my opinion, or feeling accomplished, feeling successful, just are mitigated.
100%. Yeah, it builds so much confidence. And it's like, you know, what you focus on expands, what you focus on, you find. So it's like, I did this when I had nothing. Like when I was, I moved in with my girlfriend, who's also my mentor, and I was sleeping on a mattress on the floor in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and I had no money. I honestly, if you're in that spot, you know what it's like. It's so stressful. And that's when I started my morning routine, because I'm like, I'm getting up thinking like crap, like stinking thinking, you know? So I'm like, I need to get into that dreamer state. I need to shift my energy. I need to shift my frequency. So when I started to do that, it's like, bam, like I'm able to go in and go make the call that could change it all and, you know, talk myself into it versus just like going online or, you know, reacting to the world.
Let's talk about that time. So when you were on the couch and you were scared and you didn't, and maybe you did think you had it in you, but maybe you were doubting yourself because of where you were. Was there, can you recall like a moment where you were like, okay, something's got to change and this is what's got to change?
Yeah, definitely.
Let's hear it.
Yeah. I mean, I was not able to pay my bills and I didn't have purpose. And I was looking for love in all the wrong places as a young girl, looking for attention. I had like competed in fitness and, you know, I just was trying to find my way. I didn't grow up with a dad. I grew up in an abusive home, like single mom. So I didn't know what I didn't know, right? And so I just came to that place of like, will someone help me? You know, I didn't go to college. So I'm like, will someone help me? And I always say when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And so I met a woman at LA Fitness. I was 23, she was 33. And I followed her online. This is why it's so important to be posting. And she was posting like building this company and doing all this stuff. And I didn't know what it was, but I just followed her. And I'm like, I think she could teach me something. I think she could teach me something. I was just creeping on her. I think she could, you know, subconsciously even, it was like, could I do that? Could I do that? And then I just hit a rock bottom. I actually, some random boyfriend when I was really young got in a big fight. And I was like, I have to do something. And I did have one of those Jesus take the wheel moments of just like, just when you feel so low, right? And I didn't know myself then at all. Like, so I was just like, what do I do? I'm like, call that girl that you met. Like, let's see if her company's hiring. So I called her up and she's like, it's like full commission-based job. I had no idea, right? But she's like, yeah, come meet up with me. And so she's like, you can go to work with me, but you got to jam with me. And the minute like you're out and you're, at happy hour, or you're not like reading books, you're not doing it, like, then I'm done working with you and mentoring you. And I was like, oh my gosh, like this is my shot. And so I went all in and she went all in on me. And that's, I think, the difference. I think sometimes people are presented with opportunities or God gives them a dream, but it's like, you got to co-labor with God. You know what I mean? Like you got to move your feet and you got to do it together. And so that's what I saw. I was like, okay, I'll go all in with you. Let's do this. And, that's how I operate in all areas of my life. Like I'm all in or I'm all out.
I love it. That's, I mean, I can't tell you how much I agree, like going all in with God too, right? Like God has shown up in my life and like, I mean, like just, my first mentor, one of my first mentors used to say stuff to me. I'd be like, oh my God, I just cannot believe, like coming out of, so I was in deep in the throes of addiction from basically 12 to 23. And I couldn't find my way out of the darkness. It was so rough. And like, I just didn't know, but I was deeply addicted. And I'd burned every bridge and, like there was no positivity in my life, really. I was a criminal. Like it was just bad. It was really bad. And when I like had this very, very slight sliver of grace, like this moment of grace where like, I don't know, God really showed up for me and just like gave me the courage somehow, some way to like ask for help for the first time really ever in my life.
Wow.
I met these two dudes who just showed up. And one of them, they're both still like my brothers. And this is almost 20 years ago now. So he used to say to me, like, when all these great things were happening to me, like super weird, like you can call it coincidence or not, right? But he would look at me and he'd be like, is it odd or is it God? And I'd be like, and so I like, and that might be like a weird thing for people to hear on this podcast, right? Like talking about God. I have a deep relationship with God for me, right? And my prayer practice is arguably it's the one practice I can point to out of all the other things that I've done in my life in terms of habits that I have not missed ever. I have not missed it ever.
Wow.
Never, not a day since I started. And those two guys that came into my life were basically like, yeah, dude, you got to get on your knees. Like, you just got to ask for help. Like, it's not about religion. It's about, like, you got to get on your knees and ask for help every morning because you don't know how to. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, like, I don't even know what you're talking about. And they were just like, don't worry about it. Just get on your knees and say, I need help, please, and help
surrender.
Me. That was it.
Yeah.
And so I'm so happy you said that because I do think that like there's a real, it's like that there's a real part in that ability to have hope outside of like what's happening around us here. Like we're in a podcast studio, like there's cool stuff happening here. Like we can put all of our eggs into that basket, or also like have this like little side hustle relationship with something so much greater than you or I.
100%. God's got you, and you have faith in the things unseen, and it's when that's why even sometimes people are like, what do you want? What are you going after? And I'm like, I get that, but I'm also being obedient to what God wants for me. And how I know what he wants for me is in the listening, it's in the praying, it's in the asking, it's in the seeking. And God sends me clues through people, through signs, through wonders, all of it. And like right now, like everything I'm doing in my life, I'm just being obedient to what he wants me to do. So where a lot of people, I think it's like, well, what do I want to do? It's like, dude, do you think I want to go pour my guts out on stage and do certain things that I do? Not always, but I'm being obedient to the call he's put on my life. And I just feel like, wherever people are at, again, I'm not religious. I just have a personal relationship with the Father, and it's healed me, and it's given me happiness more than a Bentley, more than, anything, that more than likes, more than anything. It's like true happiness.
So when you talk about that, like, is it uncomfortable for you to talk about that stuff?
My faith?
Yeah.
No. I fear the Lord. You know the brand Fear God, you know, Jerry Lorenzo. Yeah, I literally fear God. Like I respect him, so I have reverence for him. Like I've been saved and healed from so much trauma. Like I used to have so much shame on me, and just through what happened to me as a child, and a lot of people have so much shame. And I would go to therapy like twice a week at one point in my life. Nothing could heal me, and you know, for me, the blood of Jesus, he did heal me. And so for me, it's like everything I do I have conviction, otherwise I'm not about it. And so it's just the truth.
That piece, like it is for me, even though I know it's like such a massive part of my happiness. Like my wife is, I mean, we're not religious. We're not a religious family. You know, like I've got nothing wrong with religious people or religious families or that you know, commitment. But I'm like a bit of a lone soldier in my family because I didn't grow up in a religious household. I grew up in a dangerous household. Yeah. And my wife is like the furthest thing from, my wife is probably atheist or agnostic. I don't, you know, but like, I mean, my wife has been like stepping over me when I pray every day. Like when she would wake me up at night. When we first started dating, I used to get home from work super late, and I always finish my day praying on the bathroom floor. That's what I do.
Beautiful.
And so I would fall asleep in prayer position.
I'm gonna cry.
She would like she would knock on the door and like open the door to wake me up, and I'd be in prayer. And I just know for me that it is the one habit that I am so confident in, whether there's anybody listening to me or not, it doesn't really matter. Who's listening, I don't really care. I know that I am taking action in a like absolutely intentional, positive way to be the best version of myself as I can, and also be of service to everyone I love.
That's so beautiful.
You know? And it's like that, I think, which I don't talk enough about on this podcast, that commitment to prayer and to God for me. But it is like, I can't point to any other thing.
Yeah.
That I've done consistently.
That's so great. Yeah. Cast your fears, like give it to him. Like he's got it. Like that's so beautiful. Wow. You should share on your social, something like that. Like maybe even like you on the floor of the bathroom. I don't know if you feel courageous about that. 'Cause to see a man like you, who's like ripped, successful, like just power, you know, healthy, masculine, all of it. I just think when we see like a man like you just submitting to God and casting your fears to him and giving thanks and doing all, I think it's just so amazing to see that. And it gives other people permission because you're a role model to so many people.
Thank you. I mean, I think the hard part, and it's not, this is actually not for me, or I don't fall into this camp necessarily, but I think some people are so uncomfortable about religion, right? Yeah. And so whenever anybody talks about God or even Jesus, there's like a very, very like direct line to like church, good, evil, judgment.
No, I totally get that for sure. And I always share with people like, hey, just like you said, I'm not religious. I have a personal relationship with God. This is what I do. So for me, you know, when people ask, what's your habits? What's this? What's that? It's like, if you really want to know like how I'm a very confident woman, it's because I walk with the Lord. I'm just telling you the truth. And then when I was building sales teams and learning leadership, screw all the people. I just studied Jesus, and I'm like, dude, he hung out with like the prostitutes and the kings, like, and treated everyone with love and respect. So I studied him as a leader. So it's like, I always come from that way. And it's like, I have friends from every different walk, and I'm not judging you. I'm just going to be myself. And I think the problem with some believers out there is they like go like this instead of just live in love. And you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just a different energy, because nobody wants to be like, I mean, I grew up like in a Catholic family, and I was always like this. And that's why I was like, bye, you know, I was like, see ya. Like, I didn't get it. I was like, you guys are just like looking at me like I'm a bad girl. Like, it just didn't make sense. So it's like everyone's journey, you know?
I do think it's everyone's journey. And I also think that I also think that it's pretty closed-minded to think that like you're the one in charge.
Right.
Right? Like,
oh, dude.
to think that you're the one, what I had to learn, like, I think the only way that I was able to get out of my own way and actually do cool things like you do and like have the ability to say what I want and do it, not say what I want and bullshit, right? Like, there's a big thing. Like, you're going to do what you say you're going to do. You can think about shit all day long, but once I say it out loud, I'll die trying.
Yeah.
Like,
have you always been like that?
No.
What made you have?
Well, I think so. Maybe I had. When I was a young kid, I had thought entrepreneurially forever, and I had a really rough situation at home. So it was like every opportunity I had to make, do, and create that got me out of the house, I took. So I was selling my toys on the corner of 87th Street and 2nd Avenue. I was fucking dog walking. I was like doing all these things to get out of my house. And then at 12 years old, coping mechanism, I needed to self-med because I couldn't figure out how to get my dad to like want to love me. And so boom, that's when I was introduced to drugs. And so what I will say though, and this is something that I do believe, right? Like, a massive part of the mission of Creatures of Habit today is we raise money to raise awareness for substance abuse prevention and awareness. And so we raise money and then we partner with an organization that I personally get addicts who are sick and suffering that don't have the cash to get into treatment but are willing into treatment. So we're constantly putting people into treatment, right? Like, I'm like, through friends, I post about it on social. I'm like, hey, like, I will pay for your treatment. I will pay for your travel there and back. I will pay for your 28+ day stay.
So great.
Like,
Wow.
And so that's a big part of my mission, but the mission of the brand. Like, what people don't understand is everybody like writes off addicts. Like, all the people that you see sleeping in tents, like in LA, right? Like, it's so easy to be like fucking scumbags.
Right.
It's so easy to be like, oh, like the scum of the earth, like the worst thing ever. Like, how are they letting them be here? And like, I'm sure, right? Like, they should be cleaning up the streets. Like, they should not be sleeping on the fucking street like that. But the level of commitment and dedication from an addict to the drug is like, it's loyalty beyond. It's loyalty beyond. Like, you are so loyal to that alcohol and those drugs. Like, you will kill, you will sell yourself, you will do anything to get it, right?
Yeah.
Like, that is just truth. And so imagine you find someone who has that kind of conviction, someone who's like, who can do that, who could literally say, you know what? I'm going to fucking kill somebody to get what I want. Imagine you take away the bad news. You take away the drugs. You take away the alcohol. Now this person still has that crazy conviction. The ability that person knows that they can go way beyond what anybody else is willing to do to get what they want.
Yeah.
Now you just put in some good shit.
Oof. Those are my kind of people. I mean, when you find someone, I call them the ace in the deck. Like, those are like the best people. Like, they, like work ethic, fighters. I mean, talk about fortitude. Like, those are the people that they'll make a way, They're gritty. Yeah. Tell
me about Fortitude.
So I've been coaching in business for like over a decade. And, I talk about this thing called productive struggle. We seem to have like this, people are like, I'm struggling. And I'm like, you're going to struggle through to find your authentic voice, I don't care what you do. Like, it takes struggle. It takes, if you look at even the Japanese culture, they do mathematics way different than the American culture. They give them way longer time to solve a problem. Even their school, where in America, it's so different. The whole teaching system, they look at it as it's good. They like have them build up some resilience, And so when I've been coaching people, I'm like, you need more freaking resilience. You need more courage, which I think when you put those two together, you get fortitude. And to make people realize, like, you got to get a little bit tougher, and you don't just need fortitude in your mindset, but also in your faith, also in your fitness. Like, it's just a way of life. And so I'm just all about Fortitude.
I think there's a piece to me that keeps on getting drawn to faith here. So forgetting about like just the non-believers, but like for the open-minded person that doesn't have an understanding of what faith is, you know, look, every president, whether they're, you know, whatever their religion is or whatever it is, it's like, God bless you, God bless America, right? Like almost every single elite athlete has God in his or her life, like almost every single one, right? Like you see like the amount of people that like win a title or do whatever it is, like they get, immediately they cross and then they drop down and they're just like to the one and only, right? Like, so for the person that doesn't have, and let's just put religion completely to the side here. Let's talk about just faith in a power greater than you or anyone you know. If someone's like on the fence or like doesn't even know where to begin, because I think that I've never had this conversation on this podcast, and it is so important to me. Like I get like emotional even saying it.
Yeah,
it's so important to me. Like I would not be here without it. Legit, would not. No chance.
Yeah,
impossible. And I have to check in with it every day.
Yeah,
where I start my day. So like for someone who's, because it sounds like you have a similar path, what would you say?
I would say follow that curiosity. Like I think if you don't have it, like there has to be something missing, right? And so it's just like people learn differently, right? They have different methods. For me, when I was exposed to religion, I was like, I don't get this. Like this is like rule books and it's grossing me out, right? And then when I went to a non-denominational, so no religion, Bible camp, for me, the people were like all singing like worship music. You could look up Hillsong. I actually recommend people do this. Look up Hillsong and look up the song Oceans and just play it and let the music just minister to you. And so this is what happened to me when I was like 13 years old, and people were like praising and thanking God. And I was in this big room of all these kids my age, and some of them are like raising their hands. I'm like, why are they raising their hands? Like, and it's like, my girlfriend was like, they're like praising the Lord. And she's like, just stop getting in your head. Just be with God. And it's your relationship with him. It's not calculated. It's you don't have to earn it. You see, I was trying to earn it. I was like, what do I have to do to get it? Right? It's like, no, you already are loved. You're already good enough. And so for me, what I did in that moment, I remember it so vivid. It was like August, hot day. And it was like, I just felt this comfort and this wave come over me. And I didn't really know exactly what it was. Now I know it was the Holy Spirit. It was God coming over me. And that moment I was like, you know, I finally get it. Like I have a relationship with, like, this is my father. Even though I didn't have like an earthly father, I can have like a heavenly father. And I just got to talk to him, which again is so weird to people. They're probably like, what is this? This is what you do. It's like, all you got to do is take one step. Like he'll come after you. He's been waiting this whole time. And so I got on my knees, and I remember in this whole big auditorium with all these kids, and I was so confused, so overtook. Like I just was having all these feelings, and I just was like weeping and weeping and weeping. And it was like, I finally had like a little bit of peace that I didn't have ever in my whole life. And I'm like, this is God, this is the Holy Spirit. But it didn't stop there. Like that was like just I call it an encounter with the Holy Spirit. What happened for me is I had to continually seek. And, you know, if you seek, you will find. And and this is what I really encourage people, and anyone I mentor, I always encourage them. I'm like, go to a non-denominational church in your area. Like, just look it up, just go sit in the back, be cool, put your shades on, whatever, cross your arms, I don't care. But just like go listen. And it might be the music, it might be the pastor, it might be, I don't know, something, because you need to start learning and just letting it seep through and see what happens. And like even here in LA, there's a church called Mosaic. Erwin McManus, you've ever heard of him? He's one of the greatest like theological minds of our time. He just has this way about it. And so, I mean, I went through periods of anger, like growing up and then moving out here. And I found him through actually reading some of his books. And I went to the church in Hollywood and I was like, whoa, like there's atheists that go there. Like there's, no, you don't feel judged. You just come as you are, and that's what I really recommend for people is to like, just be open about it and, just start talking to him and see what happens.
Because I'm listening to you and I totally understand,
Yeah.
But to the non-experienced, and I'm not saying like, oh, you're not experienced in your life. I'm saying to the person that hasn't had any kind of experience with God or hasn't had to come through a tough time in life potentially. And like had a moment where you were like, wait a second, like, there's no chance that this is like all me. Like me left to my own devices ends up in jail or potentially dead, which I've experienced both. And I've come back from the dead, And so for me, when you're talking, I'm like, oh, 100%. Like I get it. Like you're not, like I understand that feeling of being with God and having that. But for the person that does not have any of that experience and potentially looks at, this conversation as like, oh my God, what are these guys?
I know, they think we're woo-woo.
Hokey pokey.
Yeah, this is why though, it's like, I'm so careful what I want is people to just be open. Yeah. And then to let go and let God, if you will. That's just really what you do. You know what I mean? And people will receive in different ways. Like for me, music is so important. If you think about music and what's going through, it's like your subconscious all day long, right? Like music is so important. I connect with God through music, like truly. When I'm backstage before I'm about to go talk to 20,000 people, I am praying. I'm asking God to use me and speak through me, do it for the people. I'm listening to worship music and then I go on stage. Like that's how I get in my state and gain a lot of confidence. Honestly, that's my secret right there. That works for me. There is some people though that they're like my husband. My husband read the book, I Don't Have Enough Faith to Be an Atheist. And my husband is very analytical. Like he's the guy that could sit here and tell you a million Bible stories. And, like you should actually have Jake on the podcast because he's just so good like that, where I'm more like spiritual. You know what I mean? So it's like we're wired in two different ways. He sits and watches like debates and some of the world's greatest people prove Jesus and all these things. And so that's what he needs though. That's what that's what his brain needs. And so that's why he read that book. And a lot of our friends that are more that way, we say, read that book, But at the end of the day, it's like, it's just letting go and just surrendering. And I think if we're willing to admit, we've all had those times where it's like, I can't do this on my own, And it's like, you don't have to do it on your own. You really don't. And then from there, it's like you're jacked. Like it took you a while to like grow. What you want to grow your muscles, you work your muscles. You want to grow your faith, you work your faith. And so how I do that is the WPP. So I read the living word of God, read the Bible, I pray and I praise every day. It's like, that's how I grow my faith. I go to a really awesome church that I don't feel judged. No one does. It's very open. It's actually outside under a tent. It's just, it's amazing music. People come in crying. It's great, And then I have some friends that are faith-based as well, but I have a lot that aren't. And so it's like, I just surround myself with that. And then I've just grown. It's like growing your muscles. You grow your faith.
I think I need to start sharing more about my, I do. And it's weird that I have not like made that because I do strongly believe, and it sounds like you absolutely believe
100%.
that it is real, whether you can pull out a document that says, you see, it was signed here. This was it. Oh, here are the pictures. Yeah. Here's the evidence.
Yeah.
Like a really great podcast that you should check out that I recently listened to that God like just kind of like pops up every now and again and says, hey, don't, like this is no, like you should, no, here's me. But there's a podcast, this guy, Sean Ryan, he had the guy on his podcast probably a month and a half ago or so, that is the foremost successful near-death experience researcher.
Whoa.
Yeah. So this guy has interviewed thousands of near-death experience, people that have had near-death experience all over the world. And you listen to the podcast, 48% of the stories are identical from people all over the world. Like they describe the exact same situation, the exact same place, the exact same person. And it's totally like real.
Yeah.
The interviews that he has with these people. And he's literally he was an atheist, this guy. And now he has his own church and he's been in faith for 28 years.
Wow.
But before that, he had just an abundance of people telling him these stories that were the same. And not only like heaven stories,
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just a really, really sort of eye-opening experience for me where it was just like, because I didn't grow up religious at all. Mm-hmm. It's like there was no, as a matter of fact, like it was like kind of like looked down upon almost in my family. Right. Like, you are the only, that's it. You're alone in this life. Like you've got yourself. That's it. That's all you get, like if you can't do it, you're fucked.
Oh my gosh.
And so, like, gosh, I didn't think that this podcast was going to go in this direction, but I'm so happy it did because I really think like I'm not me without it.
I'm so proud of you for sharing this. This is so powerful. So you have 2 boys?
Yeah.
So do you tell them, do they see you pray?
Every day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Do you tell them like what you're doing? Do they pray?
They know. They don't. My younger son Dakota's lights, come down next to me, but I do it with the door open every morning. Sometimes they see me, sometimes they don't. But they're like, "Oh, Daddy's praying." They're like, they don't bother me. They, like if I, so I don't use in the morning. I wake up super early, and my wife is still sleeping. The kids are still sleeping. So instead of using the master bathroom in our bedroom, I like make my way downstairs and use our guest bathroom.
Yeah.
I don't want to wake up my wife, even though I love the master bath. It's so much nicer. But I'm down there in that bathroom, and I take care of a lot of my morning shit down there. And then when I'm done with my morning routine, I go back into that bathroom, and that's where I wash my face and do all this shit. And so that's, like the kids will catch me in there praying. And it's like a total... They're always going to have that. They always know that their dad does that.
Yeah. You should ask him to pray with you.
The kids.
And teach them. Because it's like cast your anxieties upon him. He cares for you. He'll carry the weight. And so if they learn that, from a young age or how to do it, it's just only good can come from it. I know it's probably... It's like parenting. I don't know what all that.
Well, that's that's the only piece that because I agree, right? So this is a philosophy that I've had, and I'm not. I mean, I'm not a new father, but I'm certainly I'm not like I have. My kids have certainly not gone through all the different phases yet, right? Yeah. But one thing that I've kind of, and I wasn't given a blueprint because there was certainly no blueprint from my childhood. But one thing that I have done that I've kind of just sort of like developed on my own is I don't want to be the parent that is going to tell their children what to do in all aspects of life. Like I really do want them to sort of find their path and be able and support them in what they're doing. Like definitely not be stagnant. And if they're like, my kids don't get technology. So like, they'll get like a little TV on the weekends. And like, if we're traveling, they do get a little iPad that like a kid's iPad if we're on a plane. But aside from that, they don't. And
that's so good.
Yeah, they don't. Wow. We refuse.
That's amazing.
And so I'm an athlete. I would love my sons to want to I take them to soccer and they're like, really, Dad, we got to go. And I'm like, come on, guys, like, let's fucking go, But when it comes to like, my thought process is these kids from day one have seen me train hard. Whether they're in the gym training with me or they just see me doing it, they know that I am up early. When they wake up in the morning, I'm up. And I'm like, you know what? Like, I'm not going to tell them to wake up early in the morning, but they see their fucking dad up every single morning early, like chipper, like fired up, ready to go by the time they wake up. There's no doubt that they're going to be like, oh yeah, you know what? Like my dad did. My dad's like always up in the morning. Oh yeah, my dad works out every single day. Oh yeah, my dad actually, that's so funny. My dad used to pray on the floor every single morning. Like I would like, you know, when I have to go take a pee, he's like in the bathroom on the floor praying. He doesn't say anything to me outside of son, I love you. Like, so I do believe that like the things that I want them to do, instead of me forcing them to do and painting a bad picture of like, you know, oh, like, you know, if I remember if my parents told me not to do something or to do something, I'd be like, I'm doing the opposite.
Yeah, you're modeling for them.
I'm modeling.
Yeah, and it's what they catch.
And I think that is like, just like anything, consistency kills everything else, right? Like what you do over and over and over again is ultimately going to be what dictates your life.
That's right.
And the destiny.
Yeah.
Like, it's just what you do, where you put the focus, right? Like the story of like, you know, there's a war inside of all of us between two wolves. Do you know the story? So I heard this story a long time ago and it was just like sent chills down my spine. But basically it's like, there's an elder statesman sitting around a fire with a young kid, his grandchild, and they're talking and telling stories. And the old man says to the kid, "There's a war inside of you every day, all the time, nonstop, always going." And the kid says, "A war inside of me?" He says, "Yeah, there's a war between two wolves. They're constantly battling. One is for happiness and success and optimism and progress and service and community, and the other one is for you know, misery and ego and pride and you know, stagnation and laziness and they're fighting all the time. They're always at odds. Like they're just fighting head to head constantly." And the kid says, "Oh man, so like who wins?" And the old man says, "Whoever you feed most."
Oh, amen. Oh, I got the chili vanillas. Yeah, amen. Yeah, whoever you feed. Exactly. Yeah.
I got the chills too.
Yeah.
Wow, what a good combo. Holy smokes. Like I'm
so
like
inspired.
It's so good. You know, I think it's just like we could sit here and talk about our morning and evening routines, and we can sit here and talk about our success in business. Or you can sit and talk about something that a lot of people are afraid to talk about, but arguably for you and I, like, have been monumental, if not like the most important piece, which is this faith component that people like sort of scave around because they don't want to say what it is,
right?
Because there's a lot of stigma around it. There's a lot of opinions about it.
Yeah, and with that being said, it's like whatever world you live in, and like to your point, how you grew up, it's just so important to be curious, to go do your due diligence, to go like really see different things. You know, like go to this church. Oh, open up Proverbs. You know, like go watch, you know, faith-based movies. Get the book. I don't have enough faith to be an atheist. Like, just be curious and see what happens, and or just get on your knees and start talking to God. You know, and it's like there's no like right or wrong way. And I just think, for people that feel icky with it, it's oftentimes because they saw or were raised in a culture of like super hyper religious, or they felt judged or condemned, or, you know what I mean? Like, it's just their perception of it is very off. And I mean, it's really sad, because it's like, I just feel like we can be so much better people if, you know, we cast our fears upon the Lord. Again, it's like, are you living in faith or are you living in fear? Because you cannot live in both at the same time, you know? And so it's like, how do you shut up that fear? Will you activate your faith? How do you activate your faith? By talking to God.
Consistently.
But in believing bigger. And, you know, it's like, that's how you do it. Truly. And it's like, you may gain the whole world, but lose your soul if you don't have something that's bigger than you. You know, it's like, that's not true fulfillment. like getting worldly things, getting popular, all this stuff that we think we need. You don't. You need peace of the soul. That's what you need. There's nothing like the peace that you can get from just, again, like being in gratitude, thanking the Lord, and just growing that. And like, again, it's like all I can do is tell from my experience and then let people walk through it. You know what I mean?
I've never had this conversation on a podcast. I really haven't. And I think some people are going to be like, yes.
Yeah, totally. And other people will be like, oh, this is so dumb.
Yeah. Or just like, screw this guy. Like, what is this religious talk? You know? And it's so, you know, I'm smiling thinking about that person who's going to write some, you know, the people that are going to comment on this and be like, unfollowed you. Yeah. And you know, like you could do what or say what you want. Right. Like it really, at the end of the day, for me, like I do care about you. I do want you to like me. There's no doubt about it. Like I am that guy that I definitely want you to like me. But when it comes to this stuff, I don't share enough about it because there is fear about like turning people off. At the end of the day, I like having this conversation has been like a real pivotal moment for me, I think, because I'm like, this has been so important to me.
This is so great. And, you know, not that you're keeping a secret, but I feel like when we are not fully, truly 100% expressed, it's almost like secret keeping crushes a soul. And when you're not fully expressing yourself, you're not at the full peak that you could be at. You're not fully, like people say, high vibration, right? You're not fully oscillating at the level you could. And when you live in full integrity, like this is who I am, take it or leave it, like that's such a beautiful expression because that's how God made you. And so I believe by you just going, yeah, this is who I am, this practice that I kind of left out, and now you're having the bold, courageous act to share it, God's going to bless you times 10 because you've honored him, truly. Watch what happens. Mark my words. And for anybody that's watching this, like, you know, my thing for you is like, and I teach like branding as well. And I always share with people, stop hiding parts of you that are so magical, that are so beautiful, because you're afraid of what people will think. You know, like how sad for you to judge him or me because of our beliefs. We're literally just sharing what we feel. Like, I hope you would share what you feel and not live life with a mask on, because that suffocates the soul.
I also want to add to that, like, it doesn't have to be anything. Like, as far as I'm concerned, God is God.
Yeah.
You know, and I was taught, like, where I was introduced to it was like, hey, it doesn't have to be Jesus or Allah or Moses or whatever.
He's the God of the universe.
It's just God.
He's the God of the universe.
Right. Call it energy, call it universe, call it whatever you want. But like, you know, everybody knows that whenever I talk about my routine, prayer is the first thing I do. Every morning I do prayers, push-ups, and poses. Like, that's my shit.
Dude, that's sick. Man, I got the WPP. You got... Prayer, push-up,
PPP, prayers, push-ups, and then I do down dog, up dog, and cat cow.
Oh my God! First thing you're like bodybuilding poses.
No.
I was like poses.
Yeah, that'd actually be hilarious. But
wow, that's
so
great.
I do prayers, pushes, and poses every day, but I know I don't dive into the prayer component. Like, I tell everybody that it's so important to me. I really do, and like I've mentored so many guys in recovery where I'm like, hey, you know, and this is really what I say, and I'm like, believe or not believe is all good with me. Like, believe in a power greater than yourself or not. Like, I can't walk you through this process any other way. I can't help you if you're not open to understanding this piece of my life. Right. Which is a relationship with God. Yeah. So, like, fine if you don't. But, like, I'm here to tell you, like, I can't really help you. I can't teach you any other way than I know how to do it, which is like, you gotta have faith. You gotta have faith. You gotta have faith. Yeah. You gotta have faith. And so I'm not saying that you need to have a objective thing that you think about, but I am saying that, like, if you think you're the one, if you think you're the one,
that's like mind blowing to me.
Yeah. If you think you're the one, I can't help.
Right.
Because I know I'm not.
Yeah.
You know?
No, you're not that cool.
For other people that are just sort of like here, and I know that this has been way more of a conversation than an interview. So I
love it.
I'm like, I feel really inspired right now. But I remember the first person who really not the first two guys that like sort of like walked me down this path, but there's another guy that kind of came into my life. And I was like, look, I don't really understand this higher power piece. Like, I don't really understand this God thing. And like, I don't know if I need to. I don't really care to as much as like, but like, I'm just curious. Like, how would you describe it to me? And we were sitting in this room and on First Avenue and First Street in the city. And he had a plastic shopping bag with strawberries. And he like took out the strawberries and he goes like, oh, grab a strawberry. And I was like, okay. He's like, eat that. And I was like, okay. He's like, who made that? And I was like, it grew. He's like, yeah. Like, but like, who made that? How did that happen? And I was like, and he's like, okay, wait. He was like, look outside. Like, like, look at that tree. The tree is like blowing in the wind, right? Like, how is that happening? Like, who do you know that's doing that? Is there anyone that you can point to? Can you point to anyone that like made that strawberry actually happen, or those leaves blowing in the wind? Like, can you? And I was like, no. He's like, that's all you need to know.
Yeah.
It wasn't you or me or anyone else.
God breathes.
Like whatever it is.
I know.
Like it's energy that you cannot describe.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so like that's why it's hard for people to conform to like this idea that like maybe there is something greater than the human race.
Right.
But like, tell me like, why do like there's so many things that like we can't really like describe. Right.
This is why everyone needs to just read that book and then read Genesis. And
I can't wait to have a round 2 on your podcast.
I know. Yeah.
This was awesome.
This is like filled my heart so much. Like truly.
Me too. I'm like sweating. I'm like, I'm like, wow. Like and it's, and me and my full transparent self here, like part of me is like scared a little bit, but I know it's so right. It's so right to like take this little step in this, like my communication cycle.
Why do you feel like it's right?
Because I know it's worked for everything in my life, like.
So what you're feeling right now, that's like how I call it like the God whisper. He's like whispering to your soul and you're being obedient, just going, I feel like I should do this, and you're doing it. And again, it's like God rewards the faithful, truly. And maybe we can have this conversation off camera, but like, I mean, truly, because it's just, you're walking in that.
Do you speak about this in your keynotes?
Sometimes, yeah. It depends on like what environment I'm in, for sure. Yeah. I talk a lot about like forgiveness and oppression and, lots of stuff. Yeah. Yeah. You're amazing.
This was awesome.
Yeah.
Guys, I don't know what to say here outside of like, I am legit like emotional.
Aw.
It's an important part of my life, like very. And I like haven't dove into it in this way with you guys. So I'm asking you to just literally be open about it and not judge it, not judge yourself for thinking even like for your first thought listening to this. Or maybe you listened to the beginning of the podcast and you're like, fuck that, this one's not for me, but you came back to listen again and you judged yourself about your thoughts. I just know that I can't tell you what it is. I can't pick out like things and say, this is it. So like, how can you not believe this? But I can tell you that billions of people have a relationship with God. And, faith for me has been like the driving force of my days, every day. It's not a negotiable. It's a non-negotiable in my life. And so I can go ahead and say, oh yeah, it's just a thing that I do. Or I can say, hey, this is fucking it. Like, this is it. There's nothing else that I do so consistently. So I hope you guys love this one. I know I certainly did. And Emily is amazing. I can't wait to have another conversation with her. And I really hope that you guys share this podcast with friends or family or potentially a foe. You know, you never know what that can do. Give us a 5-star rating and a review if you're really feeling generous. And Emily, where can people follow along your journey?
It's Emily on Instagram. Just hit me up there.
Y'all, I love you. I appreciate you. I know that we kind of went a little left field here today, and I'm so happy we did because I feel full from it. And open your mind. You never know. You never know. Right. You never know what you're gonna find. Until the next one, y'all. Peace.